Good evening and welcome to the Selectmen's meeting, Town of Acton, August 30th, 2012. First item on the agenda, salute to the flag. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Approval of the agenda.
I move we approve the agenda.
Seconded. All in favor? Approval of the minutes of the last meeting.
I move that we approve the minutes of the last meeting.
Seconded. All in favor? No old business. New business. Sign the tax commitment papers. I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we sign the tax commitment papers.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Purpose of the television, you may want to read that computation page, your first page there,
Okay.
so that they know what the tax rate is. And what
Do you have the front page?
This one?
Should have been in that stack. Not there? It's not in the file? Turn back in the pages in the file.
In here?
The page there.
Oh, there it is, yeah, because that's the one we didn't have to sign. Okay. Net to be raised by local property tax, read that down here.
Basically, there's no view of what the new rate's gonna be.
Yeah, it doesn't say what the... Okay, the new mill rate will be $11 per thousand.
That's just a change of, what, 5 cents?
5 cents
Yeah,
over
5
last year. It was $10.95 last year.
So, that shows pretty good fiscal responsibility on the part of all the departments in town. I think
Yeah, everybody did a good
they've done
job. A lot of the budgets were flat. The increase is due to the increase at town meeting where we had, additional $25,000 for the fire truck. We had raised money to fix windows and things like that. That increased the budget from last year. Okay, first reading of the abatement policy. You got
I
one?
go in there. The Town of Acton abatement policy. 1, a written application must be completed for each abatement request. The application must indicate the type of abatement requested in Note 1. Note 1 says the abatements may be requested for any one of the following reasons: error in valuation, the land, building, or total valuation is being contested illegally, irregularly, or error in assessment, ownership, tax status, or exemption qualification is being contested, infirmity or poverty. Abatement requests for inability to pay should be submitted directly to the municipal officers. The 2, applications for abatement must be submitted within 185 days from the date of commitment. The date of commitment is generally a week to 10 days before the mailing of the tax bills. 3, the burden of proof is upon the taxpayer. The taxpayer must show that the property is overassessed in relation to other properties in the town. The legal assumption is that the assessment is valid. A person disputing the assessment must prove indisputably that, A, the property is overvalued, the assessed value overestimates the just value, and that's note 2. Note 2 says MRSA Title 36, Section 848-A states, in any proceedings relating to a protested assessment, it shall be sufficient defense of such assessment that it is accurate within reasonable limits of practicality, except when proven deviation of 10% or more from the relevant assessment ratio of the municipality exists. This provision means that the assessment is deemed to be reasonable if it falls within 10% of the proven, and that's underlined, market value. If the town's assessment ration is other, that should be ratio, I believe, is other than 100%, then the assessment adjusted by ration, again, ratio, I think that should be, is deemed reasonable if it falls within 10% of proven, which is underlined, market value. B, the relationship between just value and the assessed value of the property differs from the relationship of the average valuation of other properties to their just values, or that the property was not assessed in the same manner as similar properties. C, factual errors or incorrect calculations exist on the property record card that have resulted in an erroneous valuation. 4, the application for abatement shall not be deemed to be complete and will not be considered until appropriate documentation supporting a contention of overvaluation has been presented. Also, personal communication with the assessor's agent, J. O'Donnell and Associates, through a phone call to area code 926-4044 or a visit is required prior to review by the Board of Assessors. 5, in the case of factual error of the property record card, size, age, number of buildings, etc., a copy of the card is sufficient documentation. For cases where the factual physical representation of property is correct, appropriate documentation should be either or both of the following. A, independent appraisal, a complete copy of the appraisal must be submitted. B, current assessments of at least 3 similar properties that show the subject to be inequitably assessed. 6, in all cases, the assessor's agent must be provided an opportunity for an interior inspection of the property structures. This opportunity must be provided even in cases where only land value is in dispute. The valuation resulting from this inspection, either increased or decreased, will become the value for the following tax year. 7, even if only one element of property value is in contention, the assessors reserve the right to consider the total land and building assessment in the review of the abatement application. 8, in order to reduce potential interest costs, tax payment on any disputed tax assessment should be made on or before the normal due dates. The late payment of any taxes not abated will be subject to interest at the town's normal rate. Interest will accrue from the normal due date to the date of actual payment.
We'll be signing this on the 13th. This will be the new policy based on this year's taxes. It gives us another step. If you have an abatement, your first step will be to get in touch with the O'Donnells and have a discussion before we go into a lot of paperwork and time limits and everything else. All right. We don't have any other business?
I don't.
Okay. Announcements, the town clerk's office will be closed on September 20th. We are having a public hearing on September 13th at 6 o'clock. The reason for the public hearing is for a couple of questions that are going to be on a special town meeting, September 27th, 7 PM at the Acton Town Hall. Special town meeting, Article 1, to choose a moderator to preside at said meeting. Article 2, to see if the town will vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to enter into a 4-year contract with the York County Sheriff's Department for law enforcement services. Article 3, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate from an undesignated fund a sum not to exceed the sum of $20,000 for contract services with the York County Sheriff's Department for law enforcement service to be in conjunction with the town of Shapley. Article 4, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate from undesignated funds a sum not to exceed the sum of $40,000 for contract services with the York County Sheriff's Department for law enforcement services. This article is only needed in the event the town of Shapley voters do not pass the article for a contract deputy. What this is the Sheriff's Department has come in, they have a grant for a 4-year program to have a community officer in town with a cruiser that's designated just for Acton and Shapley. We've met with the Shapley Selectmen. They are asking these same questions at their town, and if both towns vote yes, then it would be $20,000 a year, and then for 3 years, and then $40,000 per town for the 4th year. If we vote down no, then Shapley still may do it, asking that second question like we did, and they will have the sheriff for a full 40 hours instead of 20 hours, the way it's set up now. We will be adding another question to that town meeting on whether the town will approve to spend money on the fire truck. We don't have the numbers yet. We will have them by the public hearing on Thursday, the September 13th. Okay, that's all I've got. Anybody else have anything else? Motion to adjourn?
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Seconded.
All in favor?